A very dear friend of mine who went by many names on TikTok, Druid, the Woodsman, became omnipresently known for a singular catchphrase: go hug a fucking tree. And I often do. And the thoughts of the stewardship of nature, my growing and still burgeoning love of hiking, all can stem back to not only that quote, but quite a few other things that have come into my life before I made the choice to embrace faith. And how, as a city pagan, I live in New York, there's no denying that, how I don't take nature for granted because I look out my window and outside of the trees that were planted long before I got here, all I see is concrete and metal. And the idea of my city being called the concrete jungle doesn't do much to warm the cockles of my heart. This is I Am Heathen, and so can you. So, back in January, I wrote an article called Progress Marches, Stewardship Halts, in response to an article that a good friend of mine, Pops the Druid, posted about nature and being outside and the stewardship of the land. And I felt it only important I add my 2 cents to this, and given that I'm ready to take my first hike of the summer within about a week or so, I felt this article only prevalent to read. So I'd like to know what you think. Somewhere in the middle of the 1987 episode Encounter at Farpoint on the Gene Roddenberry classic Star Trek The Next Generation, as the omnipotent being and perpetual pain in the ass Q, played by the incomparable John Delancey, when faced with Captain Picard's platitudes of how humanity in its current iteration has risen above what it was a millennia before the start of the series, to which Q responded, at which time you slaughtered millions in silly arguments about how to divide the resources of your little world. And 400 years before that, you were murdering each other in quarrels over tribal god images. Given we're in the early 2000s, by Star Trek standards, I think Q is wrong. Not so much in the sense that humanity has shed its violent nature, and I honestly believe we never will, but rather quarreling over tribal god images never stopped. Instead of reclaiming the Holy Land for the right god, I'm looking at you, Saladin and Richard III, the concept of deity has drastically shifted. In 2025, I did write this a year ago, the American concept of deity is threefold: the gods of our faiths, the politicians being raised to the level of godhood by the throngs of fanatics who grant them power, and resources. Arguably the hardiest of these gods, the oldest of these gods, and the single god more willing to bleed for her supplicants more so than Jesus or a sitting president ever could. Well, New York City isn't exactly the highest standard of nature's idyllic beauty. It was my parents' love of photography that instilled in me a deep love of nature at a young age. I can vividly remember staring at an Ansel Adams print of Moon over Half Dome with near holy reverence. My first of many creative endeavors as an adult was to study photography to shoot like Ansel Adams. I had it in me this ingrained appreciation for nature despite the fact that it was nowhere near my backyard. Following in Ansel Adams' footsteps, I came to join the Sierra Club, rising to a middle leader in the organization, and I came to understand fully not just the conservation of nature, but deeper, more ethical stewardship of the land, and in turn, granting us as denizens of the world the ability to leave the world a better place long after our elbows have touched wood or burned away. When I became a chef, I wanted nothing more than to cook food and have fun doing it. It was all that mattered to me, quite frankly. And then I read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, saw documentaries like Super Size Me and Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and my desire as a chef started to turn on its axis. Concepts like ethically sourced, locally sourced, and nose to tail eating became regular installments into my nightly research deep dives. If you've known me long enough, you know I'm right there in league with Uncle Roger when I say that bloated American chef Einar Blackthorn despised Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver is an affront to what I hold dear as a chef: the ethical, logical, and above all else, respectful preparation of other cultures' foods. And as a Brit, history is not on Jamie Oliver's side when he commits to playing the role of culinary colonizer with jerk fried rice. I will never forget watching Jamie Oliver's TED Talk about the rise of obesity in minors in America. He shined a mirror on American school kids and highlighted a very hardcore, uncomfortable truth that shiny packaging and media clowns wouldn't be able to make go away. America's kids are fat and potentially getting fatter every day. Jamie showed samplings of American school food budgets versus average income in certain areas, and you got to witness this severe economic disparity that showed how the quality of food is directly proportional to the volume of income and, in turn, overall quality of life. This TED Talk, it scared the shit out of me. I loved cooking for my family, especially my young nephews. It made me so much more conscious of what I was cooking for them, as the last thing I wanted was the act of being around the table with family and loved ones to become associated with losing your lunch in the houseplant. My connection to nature only grew as I embraced my faith and walked on my own 2 feet with pride as a Norse pagan. Nature felt holy to me, from my first hike down the dark trails on Long Island to summoning a mountain hike in sandals in Arkansas. It was nature that felt like a second home. The wind through the trees were my hymns, the sights of deer answers to my prayers I had yet to utter. I knew then and now that I'd found myself down this path for a reason. It was in nature I met my patron deity. It was in nature I experienced what I can only call a miracle, and it was in nature that drove the roots of my faith into the soil I tread upon. I'd eventually come to call the feeling I'd get being out in nature, that sense of pastoral awe at hearing civilization gradually silence itself the further into nature's heart I walked, rewilding. I've often heard chefs talk about the importance of slow food, but never once have I ever heard anyone talk about slow nature. The realization that you aren't the biggest thing in the room, and the idea that in 2026, modernity, anybody can gleefully embrace their wild side and walk trails in the heart of nature, feeling her heart beat with every step. I live in America in 2026. Still a culture of speed, still a culture of instant gratification. Rewilding for me became not just a physical process of entering nature, but a symbolic scourging and unburdening of all the crap that modern life is capable of throwing our way, and maybe, for just one beautifully brief moment, for the very first time, hear the world around us without the trappings of civilization. In my practice as a Norse pagan, I honor the landvættir through libational offerings, food safe for animal consumption, organic fruit, and I honor them as well by venturing through their forests, speaking to them, and hearing them speak back. The spirits of the land are old, ancient beyond recognition, and we, the children of ash and elm, are hurting them. What do we as pagans, witches, and everyday people in 2026, what are we supposed to do? How do we disconnect from the rat race and embrace the slow? The answer is simple yet so complex. Go outside. Not just outside your front door or to Dunkin' Donuts. Find a park that hasn't been ravaged by the March of Progress. Google hiking trails near you and go outside. Fuck, go barefoot if you want to feel the world beneath you. Carry yourself with intention and purpose. And breathe. Take a big, deep breath of what the air was meant to feel like and realize that you're home. If the Norse pagan beliefs are to be held in any degree of regard, we are the children of ash and elm, two great trees given life by the gods. It is from the earth we are born, and it is to the earth we will eventually return. We need to build a deeper connection with nature, especially in this day and age. The ability to venture into the woods and sit in contemplation may very well be lost to us in a few decades. And I, for one, believe that change starts now. Progress may always march on, but stewardship, the care of the land, the care of the self, and the honoring of spirit may come to a halt for a lot of us trapped in that rat race. The onus falls to us, the people who have seen what it's like with the shackles off, to drive the cause forward and encourage our fellow humans to go the fuck outside. Damn! That, my friends, is all the time we have for today. Tune in this Thursday. You know what? Tune in every Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your heathenry related drive time needs. If you'd like to connect with us outside of podcast land, you can find The Common Hearth on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're reaching episode 40 very soon, my friends. And it is with your love and support that's getting us there. Thank each and every one of you for all the love you've shown us. And in our regular tradition, if you have a drink, go get one, please. Raise it up high and repeat after me. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the spirits, hail the ancestors, and most importantly, hail yourselves. Keep those fires burning, my friends, and, well, this has been a Blackthorn production.